we have a question about the most exciting way you've been able to communicate at the program level, you in your own work or ways that you've seen it work throughout the rest of the city. And I'll leverage that as you answer that question to get into more of your most recent budget, because it's the most exciting way that we've seen communication at the program level. But we'll wait to satisfy our question here in just a second. How about you? What's been different about getting to the program level?
Well, actually, and honestly, I mean, that really is the most exciting thing that we've done this year that I would just love to talk about, because it's sort of, I mean, it's like an end goal, right? So this was the first year that we were really able to focus on presenting budget requests and changes to the city council on a programmatic basis during our council discussion. And that was just huge. And the prior year, we had completed our first PBB program review project, which I'm sure we'll talk about more. And we had included some highlights of PBB programs in the budget document, but we didn't engage too heavily with it with council in the prior year, simply because we just wanted to keep expectations reasonable and make sure that we weren't embarking on something we weren't quite ready for. Whereas some cities may have an issue getting council buy-in for PBB, we sometimes have the opposite problem to where they are so excited to jump in and start using PBB in the budget process that we've actually had to remind them that implementation is a process. It's not something that takes place overnight, which I guess isn't the worst problem to have. But anyway, this year, I mean, honestly, partly out of the necessity to make some tough budget decisions as a result of COVID, the concepts from the PBB blueprint that we base our program review on were the primary means of justifying budget requests from departments, and were a main focus in our council budget discussions. So council was presented with a matrix type list of the dollar changes we were requesting, both increases and decreases, the type of opportunity it was as defined by the PBB blueprint, and the programs that were impacted. And we once again included the PBB program highlights in our budget, and those go into more depth about a selection of the programs that were analyzed during the year. And it was just really exciting to have a conversation with council and answer questions from them on a programmatic basis.
Let's stay here for a little while. For those who are tuned in, I just posted the link to the proposed budget. Stacey said that tomorrow, I believe, or later this week, the approved budget will be posted online as well. How last year you did the kind of the toe in the water, the first effort where departments were applying that blueprint for programmatic change, and there was a pick three approach to it all, and
yes.
That was maybe a teaser. It wasn't practice because it was the real deal. But can you walk us through what happened from that effort to this year's approach, which seems even more comprehensive?
Sure, yeah. So like you said, last year was the toe in the water. It was a practical application, but it really was also a really big learning experience for departments. And so what our Pick 3 program was that we implemented last year was using the PBB blueprint, which is kind of like a roadmap for analyzing your programs and applying opportunities for those programs, such as increasing, decreasing service levels, finding alternate revenue options, looking into partnerships. And the departments were tasked with selecting 3 programs, and specifically they picked out 2 of them, and then our city manager chose 1, and analyzing their programs for opportunities based on the blueprint. So last year, I think it was about a 9-month undertaking where we kind of just went slowly. We were introducing, all of the sort of those concepts. The prior year, they had got the data into the system, and now they were using that data, to apply actual solutions and opportunities. And so, we took almost the full year to do that. They were able to present you know, what their recommendations were based on the blueprint project. And then we incorporated some of that information into the budget. And then this year, when we started out in 2020, the intention, of course, because we had a lot of intentions going into 2020, was to continue that, was to do another Pick 3 program review. But, you know, coronavirus just threw a wrench into everybody's plans. So we had to shift a little bit. We weren't able to do such a formal project review. Priorities were just different than what they anticipated they would be. But thankfully, you know, we already had the conceptual knowledge of what, you know, opportunities there were and the trade-offs that you can make and how to look at a program and understand it on a programmatic basis and analyze that. And so even though the program review was a little less formal, because what we asked people to focus on were specific opportunities, which was to free up resources in maybe some less critical areas so that we could maintain our most critical programs in light of, you know, decreased revenue. And then they were tasked with coming to us with those decreases, you know, in service levels in certain programs. This was also based, we had an early retirement incentive program to try to minimize, you know, personnel costs. And we use PBB to, you know, look at each participant, you know, to determine, you know, do we need to replace this position, or is this a position that represents an opportunity to decrease service level or reallocate and decrease service level somewhere else. So just having that vocabulary and the knowledge of the concepts, we were still able to do a pretty impressive review of our programs, you know, given, you know, we had a tightened time frame. We had waited for a while to see where our revenue might go because, you know, even earlier in the year, it's just so unpredictable. Nobody knew what was going to happen. But we were still able to identify those opportunities and pivot to completely changed expectations and apply those PBB concepts.